Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's talk about this exchange between Senator Mazie Hirono and Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Ms. Bondi, FISA Section 702 will expire in 6 months. In response to my questions for the record, at your confirmation hearing, you said you did not have experience with FISA, but if confirmed, you would consult with experts at DOJ. Now you've had that opportunity. Do you support adding additional safeguards for searching Americans' communications in the 702 database?
Senator, Section 702 is a vital source of foreign intelligence and instrumental in keeping Americans safe. We also take individuals' rights of Americans, their individual rights of all Americans, very seriously. And many statutory reforms to FISA have incorporate safeguards. They have to incorporate safeguards to protect our civil liberties. The Department of Justice looks forward to working with you to discuss anything regarding 702.
Appreciate
that. I believe
that.
My staff, and Senator, I also want to thank you for this hearing. Your staff met with my staff, and I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. We're going to be working on 702, so I appreciate the openness to further amending 702. At your confirmation hearing, you assured me that it is the Department of Justice's decision to determine what cases will be prosecuted. Last month, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was forced out. President Trump then posted the message behind me asking about prosecuting James Comey. You then appointed a new U.S. attorney who within days secured an indictment against James Comey. That social media post behind me saying, "What about Comey?" was directed to Pam. Are you the Pam that the president was referring to?
I'm sure I was.
So it's very clear to me that when the president posts something like that, that he considers the DOJ to be his law firm and you his lawyer. And in fact, very shortly after the post to you, Comey gets indicted. Last year, President Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, was videotaped taking a bag with $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents after suggesting he could help with government contracts. Sounds like a bribe. 2 weeks ago, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation into Mr. Homan. Ms. Bondi, did you approve closing the Homan investigation, bribery investigation?
Just get rid of that. Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough review, and they found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. You were also on video outside the White House protesting with a group called CASA, where Antifa members were. Does that mean you're a member of Antifa?
You know, I simply asked the question as to whether or not you approve the shutting down of the investigation, Mr. Homan. I have to assume that you did because the FBI reports to you. But the American people would look at the situation where this person is taking a $50,000 in cash, no less, and you testified today that a thorough investigation was done. Now, I have to assume, I conclude, that since no wrongdoing was determined, that in answer to Senator Whitehouse's question, he kept the money. He kept the money, and I hope that he put that on his tax returns as income. Next question. Over 1,200 rioters were convicted of charges related to January 6th. President Trump has since pardoned nearly all of them. As if that weren't enough, last month there were reports that a lawyer for the January 6th rioters met with senior DOJ officials about setting up a compensation fund like the one that Congress set up after 9/11 to compensate these rioters. Ms. Bondi, is anyone at DOJ considering setting up a compensation fund for January 6 rioters? Yes or no?
Senator, I have had no meetings or discussions about a fund.
So would you support such a fund? Would you okay such a fund?
Senator, you can send me the information on the fund, and I'd be happy to look at it.
No, but do you think that's a good idea this is what I'm getting at. Because to actually set up a fund and to have people talking with your senior people at DOJ, political people, about creating a fund, and you won't let us know what you think about that, that's pretty unbelievable.
What we just watched is not some routine oversight hearing. This was a window into how power is being exercised, how accountability is being dodged, and how civil liberties keep getting treated like an inconvenience instead of a constitutional requirement. So grab a seat, hit that like button if you care about civil liberties, and let's break this down. This hearing was supposed to be about oversight, about answers, about whether the Department of Justice is operating independently or whether it's become something else entirely. But what we got instead was a masterclass in deflection, ambiguity, and selective memory, and Senator Hirono was not having it. Hirono opens with FISA Section 702, which is set to expire in 6 months. This matters. A lot. Section 702 allows the government to collect foreign intelligence, but it has also repeatedly been used to search Americans' communications without a warrant. That's not speculation, that's documented fact. Bondi admits she had no prior experience with FISA at her confirmation hearing, promised to consult experts, and now, months later, is asked a very straightforward question. Do you support adding additional safeguards to protect Americans' communications? And what do we get? A familiar script. 702 is vital. It keeps Americans safe. We take civil liberties seriously. We look forward to working with you. Notice what's missing, a yes or no. This is the same pattern we've seen for years. National security is invoked like a magic spell that makes constitutional concerns disappear. Hirono, to her credit, doesn't let that slide. She makes clear that Congress will be working on 702, and that openness to reform is not optional, it's necessary. Because trust us is not a safeguard, oversight is. Then Hirono pivots, and this is where things get uncomfortable. She reminds Bondi that at her confirmation hearing, Bondi insisted prosecutorial decisions are made by the DOJ, not the president. Fast forward. A U.S. attorney is forced out. President Trump posts publicly asking about prosecuting James Comey, and within days, a new U.S. attorney secures an indictment against Comey. The question Hirono asks is devastatingly simple. Are you the Pam the president was referring to? Bondi's answer, I'm sure I was, says more than any denial ever could. Hirono lays it out plainly. When the president publicly pressures the DOJ, and the DOJ acts immediately afterward, it looks like the Department of Justice is being treated as the president's personal law firm, and Bondi as his lawyer. That's not how this is supposed to work, at all. The independence of the DOJ is not some procedural nicety. It's the firewall between democracy and authoritarianism, and once that firewall cracks, it doesn't magically repair itself. Then comes the Tom Homan issue, and this part is wild. Homan, now border czar, was caught on video allegedly taking $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents after suggesting he could help with government contracts. That's not rumor. That's video. And yet, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation. Hirono asks Bondi directly, did you approve closing it? Bondi responds with the now standard line. A thorough review found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. Then, in a moment that feels almost surreal, Bondi deflects by bringing up Hirono's presence at a protest, vaguely referencing Antifa. As if that has anything to do with a bribery investigation involving a senior government official. It's a classic tactic. Muddy the waters, change the subject, throw out a culture war distraction and hope it sticks. Hirono doesn't take the bait. She presses the logic to its conclusion. If there was no wrongdoing, then Homan kept the $50,000. And if he kept it, hopefully he reported it as income on his tax returns. That line lands hard because it exposes how absurd the DOJ's position sounds to regular people. The American public is expected to believe that someone took a bag of cash on camera and nothing happened. Finally, Hirono brings up January 6th. Over 1,200 people were convicted for their roles in the attack on the Capitol. President Trump has now pardoned nearly all of them. And as if that weren't enough, reports emerged that lawyers for January 6th rioters met with senior DOJ officials to discuss creating a compensation fund, likened to the 9/11 Victims Fund. Let that sink in. A compensation fund for people who violently attacked Congress in an attempt to overturn an election. Hirono asks the obvious question, is anyone at DOJ considering this? And here again, the silence and non-answers speak volumes. This exchange wasn't about one policy or one investigation. It was about a pattern. A pattern where civil liberties are treated as negotiable. A pattern where presidential pressure is normalized. A pattern where investigations into allies disappear, while prosecutions of critics accelerate. A pattern where accountability is replaced with talking points. Senator Hirono did what oversight is supposed to do. She asked direct questions, followed the logic to its end, and refused to let vague reassurances stand in for answers. And Pam Bondi did what political attorneys increasingly do in Washington. She avoided, deflected, reframed, and leaned on authority instead of transparency. Whether you're left, right, or somewhere in between, this should worry you. Because a DOJ that answers to political power instead of the rule of law is dangerous, not just for today's opponents, but for everyone. If you care about civil liberties, if you care about accountability, and if you care about a justice system that isn't run by social media posts and loyalty tests, then this is exactly the kind of moment you should be paying attention to. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you buy these explanations, or does this look like politics overruling justice? And if you found this breakdown useful, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it, because these are the conversations that actually matter.